It seemed important to sing this today preceding the talk. We spent a very long time practicing it so we could do just that without breaking down crying. Though perhaps sharing grief would be an entirely appropriate and meaningful thing to do on any given Sunday. And perhaps particularly on Palm Sunday, marking Jesus' entry into Jerusalem and what we call the Passion or suffering, the beginning of that passion period of the Christ. In that passion, there is grief to come, and there is something that will transcend that grief. The mystery of God being born into a human life in which that deity would suffer and die, and then experience the grace of rising again from death. That is at the heart of the Christian message. And it seems akin to the mystery that somehow links the characters in the song we've sung, that reconnects a woman to hope. And so I've come today to talk about both suffering, which the song's narrator clearly was living in at the beginning, and the kind of grace that allows our lives to change and to heal in ways we never could have imagined. I'd like to start with some observations on pain itself. Do you remember being a small child and hearing your parents and their friends talk about what body parts were hurting? I've brought this topic up with some other congregations in a talk, and certain church members came up and said, yes, in my family, we called that the organ recital. And our parents and their friends might have discussed any number of completely mysterious health issues we knew nothing of. Rheumatism and dyspepsia, chilblains and lumbago, sciatica. Remember how it didn't make any sense to us? We didn't know at age 5 or 8 or 10 what it was like to have ongoing physical discomfort. At least most of us didn't. Maybe we understand these things a little better now. I sometimes perform a little thought experiment. Try this with me if you dare. Picture your consciousness when you were a young adult, 18, 21, when you were pretty much all systems go, running on all cylinders. You could pull an all-nighter and feel top of your game, right? Think of that tender young awareness with so little experience of any ongoing, routine, chronic pain. Then imagine your callow, childish mind from that age suddenly thrust into the body that you sport around in today. Would there be a little shock? The fact is, after a certain point in life, we live with some pain. It's a part of the sensorium that we often ignore, but it's there. Of course, our physical pain is only one facet of what we carry. All of us have earned our merit badges in grief, loss, and disappointment, haven't we? Imagine your 20 or 25-year-old self suddenly having to reckon with your whole life experience, and not just the physical aches and pains, but the entire weight of your history. Whew. I know, I took us in a bummer direction. Sorry about that. A little more to come. Since I work with folks who are dealing with substance use disorders and are in early recovery, I talk with them about their suffering in my job all the time. With the 35-year-old who said, I don't have any friends and I'm uncomfortable with my family. with the mother who joined our group for weeks virtually from a hospital bed, her liver and other organs so damaged by alcohol she was on a transplant list. And then when a donor liver was at last available, died in the operation. One more. With a man, brace yourself, with a man who'd built a career and a family, a very good career, a family he loved, but the madness of his alcoholism took it all away. And instead of living with his two sons, he could only talk to them from another state 30 minutes a week, according to the parenting plan. Thoreau wrote that we lead lives of quiet desperation, although some of us are more noisy about it. I know I am not the John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, fill in the leading man type of the current era. If I like stub my toe and Sal's in a completely different part of the house, she hears me, so yeah, I'm not the stoic type. Yeah, exactly. I was 17 just a few years ago, finishing high school, when Mrs. Beisner, my choir teacher, said, "You're going to sing a solo at graduation. What do you want to sing?" And I picked Paul Simon's American Tune, just out that year. The second verse starts out like this. I don't know a soul who's not been battered. I don't have a friend who feels at ease. Some people are singing along. I don't know a dream that's not been shattered or driven to its knees. It's all right. Now, I was 17. Teenage angst, I totally got it. 50 years and more later, I get it in a different way. In Bonnie Raitt's song, the one we shared, it won the Grammy in 2023. The narrator, Olivia Zand, sings, "They say Jesus brings you peace and grace. Oh, he ain't found me yet." And that's her starting point. As the song opens, she's bitter, aching. She's kind of in autopilot, in this background anguish over the loss of her son years ago, bound up in misery. If I hadn't looked away, she sings, my boy might still be with me now. He'd be 25 today. We don't know. It's never clear in the song what happened, but she looked away and something happened, right? She lives in daily heartbreak, in an ongoing state of punishment and despair from a tragic event in her past. I'll bet there are those listening today among us on Zoom, or certainly we all know someone who understand the place she sings from. They say there's peace available. They say somehow I can be offered grace. Well, I must have been at the end of the line when they were handing it out. And Santa doesn't come to my place either. Maybe I will never get this grace that people talk about, and maybe I don't deserve it. In our lives, we think frequently about what we deserve. Would you hand me a Kleenex, please? Whether that's, thank you so much. We think about what we deserve, whether that's punishment or reward. These can be major ruminations. I don't have the career I'd hoped for, or my partner has left me, or I outlived my partner and now I'm alone and I didn't deserve that. Or just everyday things. It was my turn to go next at that four-way stop, but the dude in that Tesla went through the second I looked at my phone. That was my spot. And I want to chase him down, right? In a way, through reckoning what we deserve or don't, we try to make sense of our lives and impose structure on them, find a sense of order. We keep score. I'm doing a good job, so I deserve a raise. I deserve to take home a few of these office supplies. I've been a fine husband today, these last 10 minutes. So I deserve recognition. I deserve love. I deserve chocolate. I deserve whatever it is I've decided I want. Or our minds go on the alternate track about what we don't deserve. I failed. I flopped. I missed the mark. I deserve some kind of comeuppance. I'm going to get my just rewards, and it ain't going to be pretty. This is a standard perspective we can flip into at any time. And most of us have ample practice at seeing things this way, for it's the wisdom of the world, the reckoning of the winners and losers, the quid pro quo we apply to everyday life. I evaluate who I am and how I'm succeeding and or failing, and I can do this for you too. I can decide if you're deserving. And let me be straight with you. When I'm in a judging kind of mood, a lot of you just aren't making the grade. Yes, I'm a self-appointed freelance life critic. No charge. You're welcome. Franciscan Richard Rohr of the Center for Action and Contemplation, which if I was going to name a center, that's what, because it kind of covers everything, that's the name I'd go for. He says, the alternative to being trapped in the constant consciousness of what we deserve, whether reward or punishment, is what he calls the actual gospel of grace. The actual gospel of grace. The only way we can understand this, he writes, is if we've had at least one experience of being given to without earning. If we've experienced forgiveness, unconditional love, and mercy. If we've never realized that we've received unearned, undeserved love, we stay in that mindset where it's all about what we deserve. It's the world's understanding. It's keeping score. But from a spiritual worldview, our life, our good fortune, are not about what we deserve or don't deserve at all. For it's all a gift. It's a gift from God or spirit or mystery, however we name it. And this radical, transformative blessing is encapsulated in the word and in the idea, grace. It's what this gift is about. Not the grade we think we should get, not the same old tired scorecard, but love and grace, a stream of living water that flows. I've heard grace defined as nothing we would have thought of, because when we encounter it, the outcome is simply beyond anything we could have imagined. Experiencing grace touched by mercy, we get it in our hearts and in our bones that we are larger than the good or bad stories we tell about ourselves or about one another. Our small litanies of fear are but a biased recounting, a cherry picking of the evidence we've stacked up against ourselves. And they're from that place of reckoning the score where we fail. But they are not the real you. the great you, Richard Rohr says. They are what you've made. So what are the conditions that open us to the flow of spirit, that allow this grace to enter our lives? How, if there's any way, do we access and open to grace? When we feel like we're wandering in the desert, how do we find grace's oasis? I had to retain that sentence because I wanted to say grace's oasis. How do we open to receive grace? It happens in the song. It was a visit from a stranger that Olivia Zand experienced. And though she usually wouldn't trust someone so quickly, she says, something about him gave me ease, and I let him in the door. And maybe that's a key. To open to grace, which is always present, we have to accomplish an essential spiritual task, and that is this: take a chance, open to the flow, trust someone, let in a new energy, a new friend, new life. Then, just like that, your life can change. Just like that. There was a long-running dispute in some schools of Buddhism between those who said that enlightenment would happen only for individuals who followed an exacting, self-denying practice of meditation for many years, and those who said a sudden, instant awakening was possible. And a story's told about a young monk who was determined to become enlightened by sitting in meditation longer and with more resolve than any other brother in the monastery. And he practiced this meditation day after day. Finally, one morning, the abbot came to where the meditator was sitting and picked up 2 rocks and began to grind them against each other over and over. Shall I go out and get some rocks and do that so you know what that sound? You can imagine, right? It made, as we all can picture, a lot of noise. And as steadfast as the young monk was, he finally just couldn't stand it. Opening his eyes, he demanded of the abbot, "What are you doing?" And the abbot replied, "First, tell me what you are doing, young brother." "I'm meditating to achieve enlightenment." "Ah," said the abbot, "I see. And to answer your question, I'm trying to grind these rocks into mirrors. Which one of us do you think will reach our goal first?" And it's said that the young monk saw his foolishness, and just like that, he was awakened. He'd been trying to impose order on his spiritual growth, but grace doesn't respond to religious calisthenics. Grace comes not at our command, not through our efforts. It comes when we surrender, when we open ourselves. It comes through connection. That's what happened for Olivia Zand. See, I can sort of get through the song without crying, but I can't get through the following talk. That's the truth. She allowed someone into her home, into her life. And what she discovered through that connection was that, in some way, her son had not died. That his heart still beat in this stranger's chest. "Look at what the angels send," she sings. "I lay my head upon his chest, and I was with my boy again. And somehow grace has found me," she says, "not because it was earned or even sought after, but because it's a divine gift." I'll tell you one more story. This grace of connection came into the life of a man named Ray Halloran, an American soldier in World War II, captured by the Japanese who'd spent years of abuse in a prison camp. After the war, Ray patched together a life with the tattered threads of a wounded psyche. He married, he found work, he and his wife started a family. But his nightmares wouldn't stop, and his family life was disrupted by memories of his torment. Ray decided from a place deep within himself that he needed to return to Japan to see where he'd suffered, to put his past to bed. He said, I had to get better. I couldn't go on. My wife thought I was goofy, which all guys could, just have tattooed on their arm or something. My wife thought I was goofy, but nothing else was working. Ray journeyed to Japan and visited the site of the worst days of his life and realized, no one here can hurt me anymore. He started to feel better. He decided to travel around more of the country, and journeying around Japan by train, Ray came to the city of Shizuoka and there met a doctor who brought him to a memorial that honored both U.S. airmen and Japanese citizens. For it was a site where 2 American B-29s had collided midair, killing everyone in the planes. A Buddhist monk had found the aircrew's bodies and buried them, needing to hold off angry townspeople who didn't want him to do that, saying, no, these 2 were human beings. They deserve burial. And the monk went on and built one memorial for the U.S. soldiers and another memorial for the Japanese who died the same day, side by side. So when the Japanese doctor brought Ray to this site, he was carrying 2 bouquets of flowers. He handed one to Ray, saying, you put yours by the monument for our people, and I'll put mine by the monument for your people. Both Ray and the doctor prayed there, and as Ray said, then we went to his home, and he made me feel at ease. Something about him gave me ease, she sings in the song. And now, after 5 trips over there, Ray goes on, I have many Japanese friends, and I can say I have no animosity toward the Japanese people. He said the people who made him sick had then helped him to get better. For grace comes in connection. We find we are not alone. We are all related, all part of the same stream. That's reality. That's the flow of love. That's the nature of God and the true nature of every one of us. Richard Rohr says that the process of opening to grace, the ability to trust in this ever-flowing stream, he calls that stream the big river of God's love. To trust the flow and the source itself, a divine process that we don't have to change, coerce, or improve. We just need to allow it and enjoy it. Instead of trying to create our own river, instead of trying to push the river, we realize the big river is already flowing through us. and each one of us is only a small part of it. So let us use this time together and the days we're privileged to enjoy. It's all a gift. As we fully turn towards spring and toward Easter, to open ourselves to the ever-flowing presence, to float down that big river together, connected to grace and to spirit and to one another. Let's do that. Amen.